So, very good morning and welcome along to another of our Business Spotlight interviews. My name is Ron Maycock. I'm the owner of ActionCoach Castleford and Business Performance UK. And I'm delighted this morning to be joined by Ian Land. Very good morning, Ian.
Good morning, Ron.
Hi, so Ian is a senior partner at Levi Solicitors, based in Leeds and also in London. And we'll be hearing plenty more from Ian in just a few moments. But before we do that, I just really wanted to explain what the purpose of these interviews actually is. We're surrounded by some amazing businesses in our region. They've each got their own stories to tell. They're each on their own journeys. And these interviews help us share those journeys, showcase their achievements, and ultimately maximize their exposure, all in the name of abundance. And it's for the benefit of businesses right across the UK and increasingly internationally as well. So without further ado, Ian, tell me a little bit more about Levi Solicitors.
Well, Ron, we're a multidisciplinary firm. We're a medium-sized provincial firm. We have offices in Leeds. We have an office in the suburb of Leeds and an office in London. We are a heavy property firm, doing also commercial litigation, professional indemnity work, probate, and some personal injury. But the vast majority of the work we do is made up of residential and commercial conveyancing, probably accounts for around 65% of what we do.
Right, excellent. And particularly, what's your sort of experience or expertise around that as a senior partner?
Personally, certainly for the last 25 years or so, I've specialised in development work, residential and commercial development, and commercial property. Which is essentially the acquisition, disposal of commercial properties, leases, refinance, and the development work ranges from the initial acquisition of land right through to the development of it, and then the selling off of whatever's being sold, whether it's plots, houses, industrial units, or anything else. We do work for one or two lenders also, in terms of refinance work, and obviously we work for clients who refinance as well.
Excellent. So within that then, you said it's around about 65% of the businesses coming through the property side of things.
Yeah.
What does that look like in terms of structure? So as a senior partner, do you have managerial responsibilities day-to-day running a division, or is it eat what you kill and every man for themselves kind of thing, that you each generate your own business?
Oh, goodness me, no. So I have no managerial responsibility in terms of the running of the departments. We have a structure which involves myself, and I have certain administrative roles, which pertains mainly to banking and finance, some regulation and insurance. A managing partner who essentially deals with the running of the firm.
Mm-hmm.
Administratively, also from a regulatory point of view. He has a host of line managers who report to him from the various departments, including our cashiers departments, the various fee earning departments, in particular the residential conveyancing department, the staff, IT, and marketing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In terms of the work coming in, certainly insofar as residential conveyancing is concerned, we have various relationships with various panel referrers,
Mm-hmm.
Which forms part of the work we do. And separately, we have work that comes in, as we call it, from the street.
Mm-hmm.
Go onto our website, they look for a quotation for the work that they want, and assuming they're happy with that, contact is made, and away we go.
Excellent. And within the sides that you do and that you're responsible for, then, what sort of size property deal or development deal are we talking? Is this multi-use that you get involved with, or is this multiple buildings on a single site, or multi-site? What kind of thing do you tend to target as your ideal?
It's a mixture. So in terms of the development work, I'm normally instructed to deal with the acquisition of a piece of land. Now, in terms of the value of that land, it runs into anything up to 7 figures, even 8 figures. Once that land has been acquired, we're then normally instructed to do the development work for it, which means put together a development pack in readiness for whatever's being sold on that land being conveyed across to whoever's buying it. At the same time, the client has their work to do in terms of getting the planning permission, in terms of putting plans together, building regulation approval, any agreements that need to be entered into with any utility providers, local authority, and all of that happens pretty much at the same time over a period of usually months. Once everything is ready, the client has generally started building whatever they're building on there and marketing whatever he's wanting to sell, and we're then instructed to deal with those sales.
Right, excellent.
So that's the development side of thing, and then separately, I'll deal with the acquisition and disposal of a property or a portfolio of properties. We might have to do for example, an incorporation of a property partnership, which might hold 30 or 50 residential properties, which are being moved into a company for tax purposes. We might be instructed to do a refinance for a client who has security securing loans over properties which are going to be moved to another lender. So you go through the process of satisfying the new lender that the property that they are securing is going to be good security for whatever they're lending. Leases, we'll deal with the granting or taking of leases. So we work for landlords, we work for tenants. It's fair to say that in terms of the work that I personally do, the bulk of my clients are property professionals. They're in the property business themselves, and their business is in the owning or leasing or buying and selling of properties, which is helpful because it gives them a level of knowledge that people who are property professionals don't have. So in terms of the advice that I give, there's often a very good understanding of the work that we have to do and the advice that we're giving. And they, I mean, for the use of a better phrase, they get it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's a fundamental building block to them having a business and being able to commercially develop properties at whatever scale, I guess. So the business, if I'm right, it started in Leeds. Was that the case, or did it start in London?
Started in 1934 in Leeds by a man called Jack Levy, who was a very, very good criminal lawyer. Mr. Levy made his reputation after World War II acting for black marketeers who were skipping the ration rules. And he developed a reputation that went nationwide. And people came from all over the country to see him, to act for them in connection with a whole host of criminal matters, ranging from stealing a shopping trolley from Sainsbury's to serial killing. Our firm was the preeminent criminal firm, probably in the north of England, certainly in Yorkshire, for many years. Things have changed over the last, I would say, 30 years, in that the legal aid rates that are paid to law firms make it very difficult for law firms to do the work being worthwhile if they're a multidisciplinary firm, because there are so many other factors involved in a firm that does other disciplines as well as crime. And you get a situation where the criminal work that you're doing is dragging down the rest of the firm. You are a criminal firm only, and there are many firms that do crime only and nothing else. You can make it worthwhile doing. So we made a decision, getting on for 20 years ago now, that we weren't going to do that work anymore. And we are very much a private client firm in the type of work that we do. But over the years, we've done crime, we've done matrimonial, we've done accident work, which we still do. conveyancing, of course, and the work that we're doing now, the probates and the commercial property work.
Mm-hmm. And do you see that trend continuing? Obviously, the over the last 20, 30 years, the things like the property market, especially around the Leeds area, it literally has changed the landscape. I remember back in I was at university in the early 90s in Leeds, and then went overseas for about 6 years, came back, and it was almost unrecognizable even at that point. So sort of going through the sort of mid-late 90s, there was lots of shiny buildings and insurance companies and financial services and everything, and it really did change. So do you see that continuing, or is there an element of saturation in directly in the Leeds area that's meaning that you're needing to look now further afield and hence probably the London office?
There's certainly no shortage of work for us. In terms of what's happened in Leeds over the last sort of 30 years, there is a saturation, I would say, of flats. Mm-hmm. There's lots of flats, lots of blocks of flats have gone up over the last 20 to 30 years. Advantage was taken during the late 90s and the early 2000s of the easy borrowing, and people built blocks of flats on the basis that they assumed that there will be lots and lots of people out there who could afford to buy them, because despite the fact they couldn't really afford to borrow the money, they were able to borrow the money. And all of this, of course, resulted in the crash in 2008. But aside from that, Leeds, I would say, is probably the second biggest financial centre in England, outside of London. We have banks here, we have merchant banks here. A lot of business is conducted in Leeds, and all of the major law firms and accountancy firms are either from Leeds or have offices in Leeds. Mm-hmm. And that's a reflection of the way it's been here for, as I say, 20 to 30 years, and it's still continuing.
Are you finding that if you like, where those commercial relationships are starting to change? So embedding yourself with, as you say, the financial services sector, which is giving advice on a lot of accounting and affordability of various different schemes, I guess, that they get involved at a number of different levels these days. Is that where most of the leads are coming, or are these still private investors and whatever that you tend to operate with?
In the main, they're still private investors. I mean, we won't advise on the affordability of any schemes. That's for the accountants and the clients themselves to decide on. We effectively put into place what they've generally already agreed on. Lawyers are by nature the last to hear when a deal's been done. We get heads of terms. The deal's already been done. Our job is to effectively put those heads of terms into legal form, and give effect to them.
Excellent. And do you think there's going to be a drive? I know I was at something sort of quite recently, and it was linked to the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, but there was plenty of, shall we say, green investments and infrastructure-based stuff. Is that an area that you see yourself getting involved with, or not so much? Are you going to leave that to other people and focus on the actual property development side as well, rather than the infrastructure?
Well, again, deals that clients do that may be green are already done before it gets to us. Mm-hmm. And as I say, our role is to put into place what has already been agreed. So if our client does a green deal, or if it's builds according to a certain spec that make things cheaper for them, if there are benefits to doing it in a certain way, they will have already agreed to do it that way before it comes to us.
Yeah.
There may be agreements that have to be put in place to give effect to what has been agreed, and that's where we come in.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So where do you see, in terms of the industry and where it's going as an industry, are there particular challenges that are being thrown your way? I don't know, it's all over the news, but AI and all this kind of stuff, love it or hate it. But is there anything specific that you say is actually a challenge to the industry as a whole that you're facing?
Well, I'm not sure about AI having much of a challenge yet. It's possible that in years to come, you'll have um, robotic lawyers drafting papers and reading the law, or even making the law. But in terms of the challenges that face us at the moment, I mean, it's well publicized. Inflation has been high. Interest rates are high to try and curb inflation. Interest rates have previously over the years had an impact on things like the housing market or the commercial property market, which in turn will have an impact on how many deals are being done or how many houses are being bought and sold. Now, that in turn is going to have a direct impact on any lawyer doing property work, any estate agent, any commercial agent. The less work about obviously means less work for them to do. But this situation is not like 2008. 2008 was a bubble. It was underpinned by bad loans, adjustable rates coming in, and a lot of people who had taken loans couldn't afford to take them. We're not in that situation now. And as a consequence, we're not seeing the house price drops and the commercial property price drops that we saw back in 2008 and following that, 2009, 10, 11. And certainly, insofar as our firm is concerned, we're seeing things are as buoyant as they ever were. We're just as busy as we were. We have just as much work coming in, and the referrers that give that work to us, refer that work to us, are not noticing any particular slide themselves.
Which is a good thing, as you say. There's different mechanics behind this, and you know we'll not get into an economic discussion about it, but there's certain mechanisms of trying to bring down inflation. It probably needs multiple measures, not just one. But as you say, the robustness of the market, actually, unless this is just a time lag, that there will be a slowdown over 18 months time or something like that. It's too early to tell, but I'm getting that sort of feeling that most people are just saying it is what it is. It's not fundamentally what we've been doing that has caused this. This is external factors, and if we can just carry on, then it will rectify itself over time. Always does. It's always been cyclical. So there's obviously lots of legal firms out there. You said that the business started with quite a unique offering, became infamous or famous for delivering a certain product. You've moved into a more commercial area where you've made certain commercial choices to provide different services now than in the 1930s or onwards from there. What makes you unique? Why should people come to you as opposed to someone else?
One of the very first things I learned when I came here, my boss at the time, the senior partner at the time, a guy called Michael Lawrence, he told me that the single most important thing that we can do is provide a good service. And when a client rings you up and asks you to do something, in his mind, having asked you to do that, it's done. He knows he doesn't have to ring you again, and he will gather that from the experience of dealing with you, that you can be relied upon to provide the very best service. And that's what we do. Excellent. And the reputation that we've forged over the years is almost a direct result of that. Because at the end of the day, you can do all sorts of glamorous gimmicks to bring clients in. But if you don't do the job right and you don't provide the service, you get found out. And that is what makes us, I don't say it makes us unique. There are other firms that provide a good service, but there are many, many firms, not just in our sector, but in all sectors, who provide an awful service.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that is, but that's our driving force.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. There's a formula for trust, if you like, and one of the components to that is integrity, and integrity is walking the talk. What you say you're going to do is delivering, and you do it without fail every single time, on time, without question. And if you can do that, that is one of the biggest things for building trust, bar none. And people buy on trust at the end of the day. We're all in the trust industry. They don't trust you, they're not buying from you. Simple as that, and they won't transact. So, it's a really good thing. Interestingly, when I ask that question, far too many people turn around and go, "Oh, it's the people that make us different." So, not always the case, shall we say? So, but yeah, I think that's core belief that true customer service is absolutely everything is a great way to move forward. So, as a sort of final question, then, what's next for the business and for yourself? Where do you see it sort of heading?
Well, we're building. We have a staff of 90. 5 years ago, we had a staff of around about 60.
Right.
That's a reflection of the work we're doing. So we're marketing ourselves. We're rainmaking. We're bringing in more clients. We're bringing in decent quality of work, and that is increasing over time. We have the usual administrative challenges that any firm, regulation is ever changing and ever increasing. But what's next is to continue in the direction that we're going and keep building and keep improving the service and keep improving the work we're doing.
Do you see it going into more offices, or are you keeping it around the hubs of having London and Leeds as your, do we see on the horizon and, other places, let's say in Wales? I know obviously it's England and Wales in terms of the law, or do you see yourself opening and getting registered into Scotland, into various other areas, going international, or is this a provincial kind of business that has plenty of scope just to grow within the provinces?
Well, I never say never. If opportunities arise, if we happen to take over a firm that's based elsewhere, if something's presented to us that seems like a good opportunity, absolutely not. We would not say ever. We had an office in Wakefield for a number of years, which worked well for us for the time that we had it. We now have an office, as I said, in a suburb of Leeds that we moved into approximately 2 years ago, which is working well. It's given us a foothold in an area of Leeds that we wanted to become more established in. So who knows what's on the horizon if something presents itself in Cardiff or
I was going to say
somewhere else. Then
I remember having this conversation with someone, and they said, "Oh, we've gone international. We've gone to Scotland." And I went, "How can you class that as international?" They went, "Yeah, but it's governed by a different law." So it was, and I thought, well, that's a good way of looking at it. As much as it's, it is UK, it is a separate governance in terms of how the law's actually set. So you have to be accredited in different ways. And I thought that was a difficult way of going international, but great starting point. So excellent. Well, that's bringing us towards the end of the interview. Just putting it back to yourself, Ian, is there anything that you'd like to add? Anything that we've not covered, or anything that you'd like to expand on before we wrap up?
No, nothing comes to mind. It's been nice to thank you for having me on, and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, well, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I say the purpose of this is to share your stories and basically raise awareness of what you're doing. not just in the UK. We're doing this internationally. We do this over in the States. We've got people recording stuff over in Australia and the like. So it is truly international. And with the sound a little bit older than I perhaps should, but with the dawn of the internet, people can access stuff from all over the world, and actually, that's bringing an opportunity where people are investing in the UK and need somebody on the ground in the UK, even if they're not. Fantastic. It's all good, but we've got to get them to know about you. So just really remains for me to say a big thank you for Ian for joining us and sharing the journey today. Been very, very interesting, and really do appreciate you sharing that. And for anyone watching, if you're wanting to share your business journey, if you're wanting to put your own business into the spotlight, simply get in touch. When we circulate these on the newsletters, on LinkedIn, on various different platforms, we always put a link so that you can actually book in, how to get in contact, how to book in yourself, and again, share awareness of your own business and your own business journey. So thanks again to Ian. It does take us to the end, and thank you for everyone else who's been watching another of our Business Spotlight interviews. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you, Ron.